Alright, hello. Today, I've just got time to do a video real quick. Catherine O'Hara, not really quite sure how you say that. Anyway, she has just passed away. She is the mother from Home Alone. Okay, so obviously, I don't know, maybe people out there know the significance of Home Alone, and I've talked about Home Alone several times before because in every Home Alone film they have a little Hoover reference in each one of those. Okay. Anyway, if you've ever watched 88 Finis Temporis' channel, he has got, as far as I can recall, a very nice decode on at least Home Alone 1. Okay, and all the 9/11 stuff that's in Home Alone 1. So anyway, I've got a little number jump with Home Alone 2 that we'll look at in a minute because that's the one I think references the Hoover Dam. Like all these films tends to be part 2 tends to be the idea of the Hoover Dam. So you have the film and then a part 2, and it's usually a reference to the Hoover Dam. Okay, in a part 2 to a film, multiple films of the uh, same title. Anyway, um, does this put a spoiler on Madonna for the 31st coming up into the 1st of February? So I'm not sure. Um, will we see Madonna croak tomorrow now? I'm not sure if this is sort of taking the place of that whole thing, or whether we'll still see maybe, I mean, like I'm expecting it to happen, like, you know, uh, the guess of Madonna maybe croaking on the 31st. I don't know. Anyway, let's just point out a couple of things real quick while we're here. Firstly, is this death date, which is 1/3 numerology with January the 30th. Okay, so the number 13. Okay, that's going to be important here in just a second. We're going to look at that because there was something I wanted to show you to do with Madonna and the number 13 again. Just hadn't got around to doing it. So we'll look at that in just a second. Bear that in the back of your mind. And I think before I forget to mention this yet again, is the mirror. So we've been talking about silver quite a bit and the crash of silver. What you have to remember is that the glass, water, silver, all references to that metaphysical gateway, because they have a reflective nature about them. Okay, and that reflection there is the metaphysical, and so we're trying to find balance between these two things, right? The problem is, right now we are trapped, so to speak, metaphorically speaking, on the wrong side of the mirror. Okay, that mirror, that gateway's got to be, you've got to break through that gateway, right? So the idea of breaking the mirror again, which is smashing the silver, because of course a mirror is usually made of a glass sheet backed with, at least in the olden days, a layer of silver. Okay, a very thin layer of silver, and of course that's being replaced with, well, aluminium now, but silver would have been the traditional metal that would have been used in a mirror, as we know mirrors. Okay, where do I want to go? What do I want to say now? Okay, I've just wanted that in, and obviously the idea of breaking a mirror, which is 7 years bad luck, yeah, the number 7 showing up again, that is extremely important with the mirror, yeah, because again, I've got that up here somewhere, the atomic number of silver, yeah, 107, the atomic mass 107, right? So that's 17 numerology, and then the atomic number 47 here. Okay, again, 47 in our chart of Arraign. This is a big number in Lucas numbers. The number 47 obviously shows up as as we're moving to this is the mirror point here. As we're moving towards the mirror point, we have a 47 here, and we have a 47 here. Okay, so very interesting with silver. Now, just interestingly, I'm going to bring this up, and we'll look at it in just we'll go and actually look at it in a minute. But you know, a while back we were talking about this idea of silver crashing at 86, and in fact we saw a crash or a correction or whatever you want to call it, a manipulation of the markets today with silver, and it took a bit of a dive, took a bit of a crash today, quite a good crash, quite a good correction, and so the physical price of silver, I think it ended up somewhere around 86. Okay, so this is, you know, again, when we're looking, you know, in the chart of Lorraine here, you know, 47, now we can look down through here and just see, oh, you know, what interesting numbers tie into, you know, the price of silver. Now, at this particular point right here, you have to remember that particular point is a total up to this point is 122. Okay, 122. In fact, I don't know if it made it quite to 122. I think it was 121 was the high. But we'll go through some of those numbers in a minute, because of course depends where you're looking at, what sort of numbers they give you, yada yada yada. But anyway, we'll look at some of that in a minute, right? But I just wanted to just note that while we were here with the 47 with silver, you know, when we're looking in this column to do, you know, connections with silver, you know, in this Super Bowl 60, you know, it's connection to silver. Interesting stuff. Okay, and in fact, 128, I think I've got something with 128 coming up as well. Notice the 128 here as well. And also notice with 86 that the physical tower or column here, yeah, notice that the top of that is 68, 86 numbers there as well. Right, anyway, let's get rid of all that crud for a minute, because we might come back to this, we might not. So, where are we at? Where are we at? So I've got quite a few little odds and sods that I just random things, because it's weird when you get, it's just funny when you get to these little hotspot dates, you just start seeing little random stories that you know just tie into it. Okay, I don't know how to explain it, but it's just like every time you know, oh, that story looks like it obviously ties into all this. And we're going to go through a few of these things here in just a second. So, what to say? Now, she has, I guess, before we go and look, should we do the number jumps with her first? I'm going to probably forget this connection. Notice that she has the big O. Okay, that is a reference to the Vesica Pisces, to the hole. Okay, and the big O also connects to the Omega as well, the Omega. Okay, but the big O, there was a story in the news again, I think maybe today, yesterday, day before, something like that, but it's shown up in front of me about whenever this was put on 2 days ago, about the O-rings with the Challenger spacecraft. Now, if you remember this is another 86, yeah? This happened in 1986, this 86 showing up again, right? And the silver crashing back down to 86, and this connection with the O again with this story. So this is the reason why that spacecraft supposedly, you know, blew up on takeoff. I can remember it as a kid. Was because of the O-ring failure. Well, anyway, the story, there's no point in really going into the story, but it wasn't really the O-rings, it was really a design issue, if the thing ever even took off, because if you've ever looked into it, are all the people that were supposedly in that mission still alive? Maybe. Who the hell knows? Anyway, it's a story. And the story is the O-ring was the problem. So this O, the big O problem again, which we're going to talk about another O in a minute, right? With the space shuttle. So I thought, okay, well, it's come up. It's a 128 reference. 128, okay? 128 reference, right? Okay. And so I thought, okay, let's do the number jump from, this whole thing crash. 128, 86 through to, I thought I'd go to Super Bowl, why not? Because I'm just checking the 31st, pretty much, Super Bowl. I'm pretty much checking all the way through from the 31st to the 13th of February, 14th of February, something like that, just to see if there's anything interesting. And so February the 8th, note in the location of that as well. Hang on a minute. Note the coordinates. 28 degrees there and then 80 degrees there as well. Okay, and there's probably more stuff in here, but I just haven't messed with it. Okay. Anyway, let's go to this. Let's go to this number jump. Let's see what it is. 14621. Click it or ticket. Look at this. 1711 on the prime number. To me, that's significant. Okay, because we come back to the chart. 1711. We can pick those numbers out right in here. Again, it ties into this whole thing with silver again, and the whole thing with the temple. Yeah. Okay, and this, and put the clock tower in here with the clock face. This all ties into this. Right. So that was one interesting thing, with this O. This is kind of O reference, right? So O'Hara. Okay, and then the O-ring with the space shuttle, the O-ring issue, and I think it lists it down here, cause O-ring seal failure. Okay. Anyway, I wanted to re-reference something here in Back to the Future. So this connection with, I thought to myself, I better go check out the lady that is the shopkeeper in the Blast from the Past store and Back to the Future 2, because of this blue and white pot, yeah, a reference to Mary, to the holy vessel, right? And I wanted, what was I going to show you? Go to this iPet Goat 2, click through. We had this whole thing here. I was showing you this just yesterday, and right with the silver reference here, we got the gold ring here, which again, like that eclipse that's coming up with the new moon in Antarctica. Okay, and also with Madonna, a completion of a cycle. Don't forget, Madonna's birthday is golden ratio phi numbers. Okay, so her birthday numbers comes right at the start of the golden ratio, 1.618,033, blah blah blah. Okay, so that is important. Okay, and as we go through here, let's play just a second of this. We have the markets plunge. Okay, so we just had that little plunge with silver. We've got the silver reference there. Okay, and this something to do with people, destroying the market. Something to do with a square. There's the compass. I don't know. Okay, but again, this is going to be interesting with what I'm going to show you just in a second with the symbolism for the 131 and Mary. Okay, so this thing, the temple is destroyed with the moon. Okay, here the destruction of the divine feminine here in a moon shape, the mosque thing. Okay, and then we move into this, which was the snow coming down like the snow moon, again with this annular eclipse in Antarctica. And so we get to the blast from the past pot here. This is the blast from the past. We've got three towers here, 9/11, the blast from the past. But the blast from the past shop in Back to the Future has a blue and white pot, which is what I was just showing you. This thing right here, just as Marty gets the almanac, okay, which predicts the future. The future's the silver, the grey sports almanac. Did I just say farmer's almanac? The grey sports almanac, okay, which is grey, silver, okay, betting on outcomes of a certain market, okay. This actress, that was long and convoluted to get to a connection, which we want to look at this actress here. This actress's name, again, is, well, Judy Ovitz, with the big O and the Ovitz. Okay. So I thought this is another interesting O connection. Anyway, right here we've got her maiden name. For some reason I'm on Michael Ovitz here, but this is her. Now finding her birthday was a bit of a problem because I couldn't really find it. So what I've got here is, what is her birthday? I got like two options. There's November the 22nd or November the 23rd, 47. So it doesn't really matter which one of those we use. We can pretty much use either one by botching it, by clicking on and off of the end date. Okay, and we're looking at this, the 31st. So if we click off of this, if we click that on, but we go to the 22nd date that was given, this still works because we're looking at this number jump right here. Okay, so it'll work either way. Anyway, let's click it, and this is really fascinating. Okay, because it's the 169 square. So this is what this is this is 13 times 13, yeah, which gives you your 169, yeah, 13 to the power of 4. We're going to times that again for our square number here, which is 169 times 169, okay, which then gives us this. So 13 times 13 is giving us one of these, and obviously you'll need another one, another 13 times 13, okay, to do this. So you could just do this if you wanted to as well, okay. That will give you this. This is a fascinating number to do with the number 13, right? Super fascinating. So not only do we have this lass dying on January 13th, 13 reference, we've got this other 13 reference, which I think we can draw a conclusion from I Pet Goat with this thing to Back to the Future with this thing and this lady here, and that gets us to the number 13. That interesting number jump there. Okay, this interesting number jump. So that is, I thought, pretty interesting. That's to the 1st or the 31st. Now, back to O'Hara, right, her birthday, right, through to Madonna's birthday, 1627. Let's click that and see what it is. it's 258 prime. Okay, so remember the clock's at the start of Back to the Future, right when the amp gets blown up. The blue, grey, white, big round O, okay, that gets broken. A bit like in just it does look a bit like when it breaks. It does look a bit like this in iPad Go. The top of the it does look a bit like this when the amp breaks. Okay. Anyway, the clocks are ringing at 8 o'clock, but it's really 25 past 8. Okay. What else have we got here? Let's get on to this. I want to show you the Hospice Maria, the symbol for the Virgin Mary. Okay. It's basically, you could look at it a number of different ways, because there's quite a lot of differences in individual versions of this, but for the most part what you've got is actually this one's a pretty good one. We've got the letter M and the letter A in there. Okay, so we've got a womb symbol, we've got the male phallus symbol, Adam, Mary, or just MA for Mary. Okay, and if let's just write on here, so the M is what? Is the number 13, and the A is what? It's the number 1. Okay, so 131 with this thing, right? 131, an important number. Okay, and now remember, one of Madonna's biggest hits, Like a Virgin. Okay, she's got just so many references to the Virgin Mary. It's just unbelievable. Also with this thing, let me show you this version of it, so you can still see the M in there and the A. But when you break this down, if you've seen, again, 88 Finiston Porus has a great decode for this on his channel. That's the guy to watch. Okay, 1 X X I. Okay, so you can see that in there, right? Now, obviously, we're going to look at these two numbers here. Yeah, so this is x minus 1, right? So 10 minus 1 is 9, and then x, which is 10 plus 1, is 11. So that symbol encodes 911. Go check out 88 Finiston Porus. It's got a whole bunch of stuff on this. Okay? Super duper important again. What else have we got, Dan? So the point is, though, that the 131 is within this symbol as well, with the 911. Okay? And remember, we're looking at part 2 coming up. So this would be interesting if 131 was to tie in with that, the 131 train crashing, yeah? Train, again, remember, don't know how many times I could go over this, but yeah, train and Madonna, 6226. I've got a 37 down the back here and all this, but that's really super duper interesting. So all these train references, a bunch of train wrecks now, just weird stuff with trains going on. Again, could be on the run up to Madonna. Okay, now what have I got here? Let me show you this. This again is Catherine O'Hara's birthday through to 131. Okay, through to 131 now, not the Super Bowl. What was the one we were just doing? I don't know. What was that? I don't know. Where would we at? Anyway, doesn't matter. Crack on, Dan. Her birthday through to 131. Look at this, right? Okay, unclick that. Look at the 2-6 references with that. the 2-6 reference. So with the train and Madonna, right? Now look at this number jump. Okay, boom, 2888 prime. So this reference back to the Super Bowl on 28. I mean, I don't know what to say other than it's, again, we're round in circles stuff with this, right? What have I got here? Okay, so as we was just talking about the silver crash thing, okay, and we've been talking about this idea of the silver crash. Now, I don't know, maybe we'll see another good sized silver crash on Super Bowl. I don't know, maybe not. Maybe the Super Bowl, the silver crash reference there is just to do with the teams. But again, it's coming up at some point, a really big silver crash, or maybe this is it. Maybe this little, I say little correction. I mean, it was a pretty big correction in the market. But anyway, going back to this thing, right? The Hindenburg. What you'll notice is the date at which that crash began was the 29th of January. I'm pretty sure it was the 29th when it actually first started going, or just straight when the markets opened today. I don't know. So 129 is the number of the Hindenburg. Yeah, remember this thing's silver. It's painted with some kind of aluminum paint, aluminium paint, and something else I wanted to say about this. Yeah, look at the survivors, 62. We can go through all them numbers, but let's do the number jump with it through and see what that was. So this is this. So the 129 was important, and then the number jump, the crash through. Let's look. It happens to be 88 as well. Was the 74th star. Okay, and remember 47 with the silver. Okay, so I thought that was a falling star. That was just interesting. Yeah, just another little, I don't know what the chances are of that happening like that, what those numbers working out like that, who knows. Anyway, other stuff to talk about. What else have we got? Come on, Dan, try and get it finished up. Here's our Home Alone 2. I wanted to mention about this. So Home Alone 1, all about 9/11. Home Alone 2, Kevin stays in, is it the Waldorf? And of course that is where Hoover stayed, I believe. Is something like that. I can't remember what is the I don't know. What is this? Older sister, Michael C. Morona. Anyway, sorry, I was getting sidetracked there. Looking at that, I just saw a word that looked like Madonna. Anyway, the point of this one is the bad guys decide in part 2 that when they're robbing places, they are going to leave the tap running at wherever they robbed, and so they get the name the Wet Bandits. Okay, they basically flood out the house that they rob. Okay, so think about what the idea of the crash of the dollar would be. Yeah, that is the value being robbed from people. Once the dollar goes to zero, essentially the Federal Reserve have basically robbed you of the value of that money, and they're robbing you on a daily basis by printing off more money. Okay, but when it goes to zero, you will be completely robbed. And we're talking about this idea of the Hoover Dam breaking around that point for the rebirth event, and being robbed and flooded at the same time. Yeah, part 2, Home Alone part 2. Okay. Oh dear. Anyway, what was I showing you? The number jump from the release of the film to Super Bowl. Interesting with the 33 years. 33 years, 80 days. It wasn't actually anything super duper interesting. It was the composite number. Has Madonna's birthday in there. 168. Okay. I actually probably should have ran out to some of these other dates around there just to see if there was anything else interesting. But I didn't. What's this? 121.39. I'm just wondering if that's what silver got up to, 121.39. We might just look at that. Hang on a minute. Let's just unclick that as well. Let's just go through some of the numbers with silver a second. I've got a chart up here. This is APMEX. Okay. Interestingly, the number that they're showing where it's stuck at right now is 86.61. Now that's going to vary where you go and look at that price for whatever reason. I'm not quite sure why, but it will vary just a little bit. But anyway, 86.61. This is Madonna's birthday numbers. Okay, so that is really interesting going into the 31st. And then you can come scroll through here and you can kind of look at, it'd be an idea to look at the peaks and the valleys, the hills and the valleys, like Hill Valley with Back to the Future. So look at this right up here, 117. Yeah, so that's a nice number. 117.67. That's a nice number for the for the feminine there, for the temple. 104.72. 104 numbers for the clock stopping, the clock tower. What's this here? 113. In fact, we talked about 113 as a potential number for silver crashing at. 107 again, come up to this point. 116. What do we got on these points here? 118, 119. We've got a 120 there, which is actually pretty interesting. I don't know if I showed that number jump, but if I showed you, just bear that 120 in the back of your mind, the number 12. If I remember, I'll show you something with Catherine again. 117s again in the bottom of them troughs, and there's our high, 121.72. That must be the high. I don't know if it actually went up higher than that recently. But anyway, there's our lightning bolt, right? And this is the high, and it's on January the 29th. If you can read the little writing down the bottom there. So we've got the 121 bolt of lightning, 121 gigawatts. The bolt of lightning, and in fact, the Hindenburg, supposedly, I think it was static electricity that supposedly set that thing going. So a bolt of lightning with the 121 there, and then it's come all the way down, and I mean, we could look at these numbers. 119 again on that peak. What do we have on this one? Was that a 1? That's a 112. What's at the bottom of there? A 98, of course. There's a 104 again. There's a 100 there. What's down here? 79. A gold reference. 85. 83 through to the 86.41 it's showing on here. So whatever. Anyway, interest in these numbers where the peaks and the troughs, the hills and the valley, the Hill Valley. Let me show you that. Was it this? What was I going to show you? I think it was. might have been that one. I feel like there was a number jump here somewhere that was. I feel like it was to do with. I really can't remember now. Actually, I thought I had a one. No, I think it was just this 26 that I'm thinking of. I think that was on. That was interesting. She was 26. So she is a palindromic number from Catherine's birthday through to the 26th. Don't forget that January 126 is also just the 26th day of the year. So the 26th day of the year, 2026. So this is pretty important. Okay, the 71. Yeah, the temple. Okay. I don't know what else to say about it. I think that's the video. To be quite honest, I need to go to bed, get some sleep. But yeah, I felt like I felt like I had a one. Maybe it was this one. Let's just back that up. Yeah, it was this. It was the 27th. Okay, it wasn't what I thought it was. Okay. This was the release of Home Alone 2. That was coming out on the 121 palindromic. What day was that on? Hang on a minute. Let's go back to this chart. Oh, not that chart. Where is it? There. This is all. No, 121 was here. That would have been interesting if it had been like on the 27th as well, or something stupid. But anyway, had to line up with the 129 here. Anyway, okay, that's the end of the video. Done. I don't think there's anything that I can think of that I've forgotten out of here. The Big O, the Hospice Maria, I've done that. Home Alone, done the connection with her. We've done those number jumps. Just interesting stuff. And again, I mean, this whole thing, I mean, are we gonna see? Remember that's on the dollar bill, a white moth type thing. This thing getting burned up. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I think in the next scene here, I think there's an AK-47. Oh, we've got the blackened or the bloody eye there. Yeah, maybe that's an AK-47 reference there. A rebirth. Anyway, I'm gonna leave it. And there's our pirate. Interesting pirate reference there as well. Okay, thanks for watching. I will catch you on another video here pretty shortly. Thanks for all the comments, by the way. It's nice to have some comments on the videos. But yeah, alright. Cheers, bye.